are entering the game right now and spawning in the bottom left-hand side of the map. It is Diego Kelazhur.
Beautiful. In the top right, we have the red Zerg player from Exxon. He is Cham.
Kelazhur talking or playing for Archangel Gaming, of course. And Cham with strange drone. Oh, it's a drone scout. He likes to scout for proxies very early, very consistently. One of these days it's gonna pay off, but so far it's just a loss of pretty high. How many drones are there? 14. So it's, you know, it's not nothing. It's like 15% of his economy doing this at the moment, right? So
yeah,
not ideal.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like Kelazhur is. There's only a couple of Terrans, and I feel like I don't know. Maybe I'm being crazy with this, but let me know if you like agree or disagree. Like, there's a couple of Terrans that when you see them play or when you play against them, you think to yourself like, this is the kind of guy that would like proxy 2 or 3 racks, like either Marine or Reaper me, right? Like Kelazhur is the kind of guy that would do that. That would throw that into a series, kind of like, you know, like a U-thermal, where you can never really write off how aggressive that those players will be willing to be. Whereas, like when I watch other Terrans, for example, like I don't really see like Clem doing that as much, right? He's very comfortable relying on macro. Maybe he would throw a cheese in against like Cyril or Raynor, but like for the most part, he doesn't really feel the need or the interest to do that regularly.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think that would be fantastic if that was the case for Cham in this isolated incident. If he decided to scout here, I'd be like, oh, great. But last time he scouted every single map and he didn't get proxied once, right? So I mean, if Kelazhur is actively or proactively studying his opponent, the last thing he's going to do is, you know, scout him. Or
well, especially they played earlier, right, in the bracket. So I guess he probably already has that. Yeah, that's an interesting thing to consider, actually. I guess it would make you not want to chase him because you're like, well, he's going to put himself economically behind anyway, just so that he knows he's safe. So I don't even have to consider that anymore. And the Reaper is going to show up and start the poking. Interesting to note. I mean, don't think a drone really slipped out to try and grab that third, but this map is really hard for Zergs to get that third base set up sometimes, right? Because if you get blocked on the third, the other options are pretty far away from your natural.
Yeah, and you were talking about this too. I think that a lot hinges on the fourth taking on this map, and usually it's going to be that forward fourth for Zerg with the rich gas. But look at how far away it is and how much creep you need at that point in time, right? And it's really risky. So either you take that one and the risks with it, or the one at the top. But then you know you're kind of negating yourself that one advantage that the map brings. Should you establish that fourth? So a lot of games are played around that area, and if Terran can break the fourth, it's usually, you know, where the game starts to crumble for the Zerg.
Yeah, that economy is so important, right? And then if Cham is able to situate himself, get his economy flourishing, then we know that's where the strength of Zerg lies, is that if you have that money and you're able to keep everything going momentum-wise, you get all that larva out, I mean, you can make massive amounts of Lings, Banes. When we talk about, assuming that it's like a bio game, of course, like you talk about how players like Cyril and Raynor can defend, like even without Banelings sometimes, like they just catch you out on the map, and it becomes very difficult to get around if that creep spreads with it. So the Terran player, because of that, is always going to want to open the game with some type of pressure. So in this game, out of the Reaper, he's going to go Reactor Hellion, super standard. You get map control against Zerglings. Hellion's just got a massive buff against creep tumors in the last balance update, so they're way better at closing that out. But I say this, and a couple of Lings somehow slip into the main base of Kelazhur. And this is really nice for Cham because there's no fusion core, there's no second starport. Like, there's nothing here that says, oh, I'm in danger, right? Not even an armory.
Yeah, he's really not going to have to make any spore crawlers. And at this point, he would be looking to make some blind spore crawlers. So that's nice. Save up some money there. Oh, he's going to make blind spore crawlers. Okay.
Yeah, even the position of that one blind crawler, though, is going to block where a Liberator would go if it was just shift clicked, right? Like straight to the base. So it's not even the worst position for it.
No, he's definitely accounting for the potential of a Liberator. I would have liked to see him just cut it, but, you know, it's not bad. Here we go. There is a Liberator. Not the one that's going to be accounted for, though.
Yeah, so let's see how much damage you can get done here. Is he going to try to siege it on the backside of this main mineral line? As we do have a pause. Hopefully everything is all right when we get back into the game as soon as possible.
Yeah, indeed. We'll let you know. But yeah, I think it's a pretty open game. There's one thing to consider, Nate. There's a creep tumor that you can place on the main that no one places. I don't know why the Zerg players. I think if you place a creep tumor on the main and then do one extra creep forward from there, you connect your main and your natural on the low ground as well from it. So you connect your main and your natural. Like if we look at the main, really quick.
Oh, well, the Liberator actually gets sieged up on the main, so we can talk about that a little bit in a stack. Yeah. Queen's actually taking some damage. He kills the Queen, and the Hellions are cleaning up the creep tumors in front of the Baneling. This might even get another Queen with the Hellions. Very close.
I'm not sure if it's the right time to drop those Evo chambers if you're not going to wall off with them when you're under so much pressure. But I guess in retrospect, I don't know. Like, deal with this.
Look, he got 14 drones on that gas. Yeah. He got 14 drones on his gas, so he's feeling the pressure here from Kelazhur. In a big, big way. That's a lot of lost income.
Oh, ooh, if that Queen fall, that would have been so terrible. Another one will fall here.
Gets close to picking off another one. So even if he tries to drop extra creep tumors, then he won't have the transfuse, and vice versa, right? So he has to. They're kind of being forced to make some hard calls, and with just access to Zerglings and not having creep spread, being taken this fourth base is a non-starter. He's going to try and force it, but Hellions, if controlled properly, are pretty good units versus Zerglings cats.
Very nice job from Kelazhur, though, knowing that Cham was setting up for a full surround, right? Like the links were going to come from behind. So he backs off because he sees the Zerglings move out and anticipates that this would be the move. And I think that's the safe way because really, Nate, he's been setting up for an attack behind this. It's going to be a very strong 3-base pressure parade. I wouldn't be surprised to see additional production being dropped really soon. He's gonna, I think, be pushing with 1-1, and I think it's gonna be very difficult for Cham to stop.
Yeah, especially considering, like, you look at that. Oh, I thought he was gonna get the Queen kill there, but denies that one tumor. But like, he's, I mean, the link count is nice. Being able to build that up is nice, but as you were saying, he's building up for a really nice push on the back side of this too. And oh my God, are these tanks gonna barely miss the Banes? That's unfortunate. Is there anything there? Mules?
That'll work.
Almost.
Yeah.
So one Baneling, not enough anyway to kill those workers. I think the Viking's about to die on the top side.
Ooh, you didn't add the S2 anyways. You're the only other person that doesn't add the S2 anyways. I love you.
People saying what anyway with an S at the end of it?
A lot. Most people do. You'd be surprised. Yeah.
Some of us are.
Oh, big surround from Cham though before the siege.
Tanks on siege. Banelings do crash into the siege tanks. It kind of gets through a decent number of them. For some reason, the other tank with 5 health was left alive to get another shot or two. But it does look like the wind's coming out of the sails of this attack for Kelazhur. Got caught badly.
I mean, those medevacs, you would fire them.
Yeah, well, it seems like he got as distracted by the Viking as we just did. So, unfortunately, the army gets swallowed whole, and now he's left with a small harassed force. Kind of loses some of the momentum that he had from the earlier phase of the game, and that's got to be very comforting for Cham to be able to withstand that attack.
Yeah, we've been talking about this throughout the day, but it is amazing what you can do when you realize where your opponent's attention is, and that's exactly what Cham did there, was capitalizing on where Kelazhur might not be looking. And pay attention to that area himself. Extra lucky for him that the medevacs weren't there, right? Because with the medevacs, you can at least somewhat disengage.
Yeah, being able to pull the army out would have been very nice. And whenever you're sieging tanks while your army's being attacked, like in that moment, there's few things that are going to feel worse than that, because siege tanks they're very good when you can set them up before the fight for many obvious reasons, but you're going to run into this force out on the east side. If he can pick off a few more of the Banelings, really good target fire can help those Banelings. The most important unit that you're going to have against Bio. The Zerglings on their own have a hard time cutting it if there's enough Marines on the field.
Good setups by Cham all over the place. Not F2ing. I would have already F2'd a million times. There's no way I can deal with stuff like this usually, to be honest.
It's hard with multiple drops flying around, man. And
don't tell nobody.
He does get the pickup on the right side. Banes don't crash that. Meanwhile, 2-2 actually lining up pretty similarly for both players. I really like how fast this Hive is coming in. Getting away with that is great. Early adrenal glands would be fantastic to have, just an overall core army strength. And then on top of that, drilling claws out of Kelazhur. I do love to see that. I've personally never been a big fan of siege tanks. just because I feel like it's really hard to keep them safe. So those mines, each one, right? It's like a baneling that reloads. The amount of potential damage is insane if you can get a good shot off center mass.
Especially against this type of army composition, you know, it's very difficult to deal with as Zerg. And off of creep in particular. So I really like what Kelazhur has been doing with the medevacs, keeping map control, pushing the army of Cham back to his base as he is doing here. And even camping.
Oh, boy. Oh,
huge.
Wow.
Huge.
That's a huge denial, though.
Very, very big. And he also gets to see the brunt of the army of Cham, which is getting pulled back. Once again, this is the F2 that I was talking about. That's more like what I would do.
He still has a lot of his forces near the center as well, though. So these Marines trying to capitalize on that running forward to the fourth base. Have to worry about these banelings coming through. The mine detonates, blowing up most of them. But all the bio left on the ground does get killed. Thankfully, the medevac saved a good number of them. And okay, Cats, this is where it gets really hard, right? Because he's still got that drop over by the natural. And with just Zerglings here, he's mopping them up.
Oh, this is huge, but I'm not sure if it's what you want at this point. I mean, you're already trading so much economy, and he didn't really get to kill much SCVs.
Yeah, a lot of the SCVs do escape, but it's really just this tank, and now a couple Marines trickling out. So the SCVs start to die in very large numbers behind this push. More Banelings trying to come over here and push Kelazhur's army off the top side. Now he does have the high ground on the mineral line for the fourth. He's going to reposition down where there's less creep, but his own third has been completely unseated. Lings and Banes waiting for units to try to come out while he gets 5 Ultralisks. Yeah.
Oh, 30 SCVs have fallen. If this Ultras make it out, do they have the Carapace upgrade? That is the big question, because that's
right.
what makes
No,
the
because that got canceled. The Evo Chamber got canceled, so the Ultras won't even be that thick.
What about their natural thick Carapace, though?
Well, I mean, they're naturally pretty thick, but, you know, sometimes you need a little extra support, Cats. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, but there's an extra thickness in the Ultralist then as well.
When you're an Ultralist, you want to cultivate mass. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes.
Ultralists cultivate mass in a very important way. It's going to be a little bit trickier, but I mean, if you have enough, it doesn't matter.
I mean, they will either have 1 armor or 3, and that will make them more or less thick. I'm not sure. Can you click on those and see?
Right now, they've got 3 armor total. Ooh. He does not have chitinous plating, and he only has +1 carapace. But the Zerglings did so much work for him on the backside. Like it's gonna take a while, I feel, for Kelazhur to get comfortably mining again while trying to attack.
Yeah, he killed 30 workers actually, Cham, at the third. So the fourth was a little bit wasteful on the Banelings, but I guess he needed the space to pull forward. This Ultralisks will clear the way. They haven't revealed though, and there's something to be said about that. Also important to notice, I almost said during the attack, hey, like maybe Kelazhur shouldn't be upgrading because it looks like he's gonna close it off and could use all the units, but now I'm so happy for him that he kept upgrading because 3-3 is gonna be huge.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy. So, I mean, typically, if you have like 3-3 for the Ultralisks with their own special armor upgrade, you're looking at Marines doing like maybe 2 damage a hit against them, but instead it's going to be upwards of 6 or 7 even with them +3. So you need to be very, very cautious about the way that you engage, because normally you expect the Ultras to be very tanky against the bio, but they won't be in this situation if a head-to-head fight happens without enough Banelings to kill the bio.
Is there no lair in play? I feel like there's no overseer being made, and the four mines just detonated. Like
twice. There's an overseer somewhere. He doesn't have overlord speed, so he's a little slow. Having a hard time dealing with the mines though. Really good to point that out. Actually, never getting the overseer speed definitely hurts. I mean, he's got Adrenal. That's probably one of the better hive upgrades, but he could use a few others.
Oh, hell,
I'm actually really surprised he didn't, like, I don't know if he noticed that the +2 carapace got canceled, but that could really end up coming back to bite him. 3-3 really versus +1.
That's the one disadvantage that he faces right now. He has the economic lead, so it's on Cham to try to apply pressure, but instead it's Kelazhur moving out with less and making magic happen in the absence of air. Oh, no!
Oh, man, those mines.
Too costly though, right?
Yeah, the Trader mines. And here's the thing, he can actually kill this Ultra. He needs to get, the problem is the Banelings. There's just so many of them streaming forward, and he's letting the Marauders eat them, but he's going to get to the SCVs very soon, and now, now what are you going to do?
Nothing. Well, leave, I guess.
GG, yeah, I guess that's it. I guess you find the G key on your keyboard and you press it twice.
Yep.
That was very well done. I mean, I thought Kelazhur had some solid momentum to start, but
he really did, and he's a very momentum-based player doing a momentum-based strategy. I mean, everything was perfect for him, right? Like he starts the game with the delay on the third that you talked about. The creep spread wasn't particularly impressive on the side of Cham. And then everything just went wrong with that one push, not paying attention. The banelings roll in, out of creep. Really good seizing of the momentum from Cham.
Yeah. No, I mean, he sees that opportunity in a very big way, because if that game stabilizes, like if Kelazhur somehow either doesn't lose the fourth and loses SCVs, or loses the fourth but keeps the SCVs at the third and doesn't have to lift that command center, like if he gets 1 or 2 more minutes of healthy production going, like 2-1 ultras with no chitinous are not going to stop like 160 supply of bio mine. Like he was, even in the very few moments where we got to see the Marines actually shoot the ultras, like they were destroying them.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down really to that fourth base snipe from Kelazhur that he might have thought was necessary, but it was so many units committed. It was half or more of his army, right? If those units are back at home, I think there's no way that Cham breaks him, and then he has a chance to reestablish a fourth with better upgrades, which he knew he had a lead in, right? He sniped the +2.
To be fair, I guess it's hard to base your game plan around being able to snipe +2. I don't know. I don't know how much further I could possibly try to stretch it, but like if you knew that you were going to be 3-3 versus 2-1, I think, you know, you're always going to be happy as a Terran. Like bio usually is fine with 3-3 versus 2-2, right? So, but not having that extra carapace really could have made things worse. But honestly, that just makes me more impressed that Cham still carved it out. He made the most of a pretty messy game. Like it got really back and forth there in that mid-game stage by the time he was trying to push that fourth base. Yeah,
really strong counter attack as well. A lot of simultaneous action in that game, right? And that's obviously what ended up netting Cham the advantages and the leads, is that he was paying attention to where he needed to pay attention at the crucial moments. I feel like dealing with those medevacs was important, but also attacking and pulling the trigger as soon as he realizes not the entire army of Kelazhur is back at home was very nice.
Yeah. So we'll see what he ends up doing. That's a really nice map to pick up as well, since we were talking a little bit earlier about how I mean Eternal Empire I think is really one of the best maps in the game right now for Terran versus anybody. So not being able to grab one of the more favored maps, I think, is going to possibly lead to some struggle down the line. But we'll just have to see. Like if Kelazhur doesn't get caught off guard looking at his Viking, right, when his army gets dived on, maybe things turn out a little bit differently. He did have the early game momentum, so this might just be one of those, you know, dust your shoulders off and try again situations.
Most definitely. I mean, it has to be. It's the start of the series, and he is the expected victor, so I think he needs to grab his composure and see what he can do. Death Aura is going to be the next map. We are loading in, and we'll see you in game in just a second here. Spotting at the bottom right-hand side of the map, playing for Team Exxon. It is Cham. They call him El Orgullo de México.
Gotta love that guitar riff. In the top left, his opponent, the blue Terran player, Archangel Gaming, he is Kelazhur. And oh boy. Very excited to see what he's going to bring out this game. You know, Cats, I had my eye on it because you mentioned it earlier, but that drone, that little drone, like, you know, it kind of makes me think of like the brave little toasters. Like he's not supposed to be out there most of the time, but he's doing his best.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a great movie. I feel like it's a really old movie though, right?
Yeah, it's a surprisingly dark film as well. Yeah, brave little toasters. That's sad. Like when I was a little kid that came out, I think.
Yeah, I cried at the end a little bit. It was very sad. But I won't spoil it. Anyway.
No spoilers.
No spoilers on the 60s 2D animated movie.
It was the 60s.
I don't know,
man. I'm just, drones aren't supposed to go out into the open like that, That's not where drones belong. Drones belong home. Home is where the hive is, as the Zergs say.
That's what we say, yeah. All right, so very standard opening here on the side of Kelazhur. Was there an SCV scout even?
No, I so. No.
That's confident.
So I guess since we do have a moment, I'll just say on this, one of the things I really like a lot of these maps in this pool for Terran, but on this map especially, there's so much airspace behind like that main and natural area Like this isn't like that one map that's out of the pool now where you have, or no, maybe it was Everdream. I can't remember now, but like where the corner is kind of blocked off to make it hard to teleport there, or something like that. But you have a lot of open space you can work with. Ranged liberators are really good on this map, as are, BC rushes, drops in general. So all things that are really good for Terran.
Yeah, very close proximity to either mineral line makes it so. Yeah, I agree. It's a pretty annoying map to deal with, a lot of air threats.
Yeah, I think interesting things to look at, like if this game goes long, is if Kelazhur has trouble getting a 5th. The first 4 bases are also pretty easy to get, and not really that far out. You have a giant ramp to work with that goes in front of your natural and that possible 3rd base option. So we'll see. I think this is a good one for long games.
Yeah, how do you fight? Like, where do you place your stuff, though? I feel like there's so much space between the 3rd and the 4th. That's kind of like, it's kind of like a weird space that we don't get on very many other maps. It is going up ramps, but it is kind of far away, right? Like, do you place your tanks here, there, where the Reaper is?
Yeah, I do like putting tanks there for like TVT especially. I think defensively you can do stuff like that. It's a little bit vulnerable to like some of our late game harass, like being pulled by Vipers or whatever. And this might sound crazy. Okay, we have a proxy starport in the corner. This is, and he did build one at home as well. So I guess it's going to be a hidden double battlecruiser rush is the only thing I could guess.
No Banshee? There's
the fusion core.
No Banshee, huh?
Ooh! No. You only if you like battlecruiser rushing and it's something that you enjoy doing or you want to do it when you can, the first pokes, like being able to see if you get any inkling that it's not going to be like a roach or a big roach link push, you're fine. And even if those links had made it into the main base, he would not have seen what he would have needed to see to know what exactly was happening.
Do you think he was letting the links?
It doesn't usually just win games anymore.
Right. Do you think he was letting in the links into the main base?
I don't think he would let them in intentionally, but that would be some next level mind game. If you're like, I want you to see it's one battlecruiser, just build 2 spores, or something, or build an extra queen or 2. Because when you do 2 BCs at once, everything gets insane. I personally don't think that unless you scout it, which he can't in this situation. If you don't scout this, I think this build is like borderline insta win if you get away with it. Like pull it off properly.
Yeah, and if you attack into it, it's insta win for you, right? Because he's had 4 Hellions for the last 5 minutes, and that's just the thing. If you manage to fool your opponent, there's very little incentive for Zerg to attack into Terran at this stage. Yeah. So he is getting away with building these BCs, and there's no all-in on the side of Cham, so we'll see if he has enough.
And this is exactly the nightmare scenario that happens. All your queens trying to push these Hellions back that are pressuring you. Maybe you get a little bit of an extra spore or 2 because you're worried that you'll be caught out front. But it's going to be 2 battlecruisers. In the time that he could even try to move his queens from one base to another, he could kill the spore and half the drones there. Or if he target fires almost all the drones in one base. But then you can easily cruise over to the natural or the 3rd from the main. You could go out from the main to where that 4th base position would end up being that the Zerg wants. Like, I love BC rushing on this map because it is stupid how many places you can put them. And it's obviously a much more effective build these days with a range nerf from the queen. Like, this BC has several places it can hide. It should never die.
Yeah, but I was going to ask you, he had the first one pop out. The second one is just popping out now. Do you think he should have just waited for both? Or is this okay?
Yeah. No, I think he should have waited for both. I think hitting with both at once has like that impact where you can, like, the first BC probably took more damage than it otherwise normally would have had he been able to cycle it with the other one, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm also a madman. If my BC takes damage like this and I have a couple of them and there's no Zerglings, I would just drop mules to repair and force the queens to target fire.
But it seems pretty fair if it's down to the anti-air and there's not enough of it. I don't like this, splitting the BCs. I mean, they can't really fight spores, so these are harassment BCs, though there is 2 more on the way, and that might be what Kelazhur is waiting on, is maybe for that Yamato, those 2 more, delete 4 queens at once.
The Yamato's a big thing, and I guess it also might come down to, he rallied the BC, by the way. Is there something being attacked in the main of Kelazhur? So Ling's kind of got in, but he rallied it from the proxy. Oh, he did call down Yield to repair. Yeah. So he wanted to keep the teleport off cooldown in case he needed a get out of jail free card. I would have loved to see him like scan the one base he hasn't been to and try to find the Spire, because he could teleport all of them to the Spire, kill it, and then fly to the safe zone. As long as there's no corruptors, these BCs can stay on this side of the map forever.
That is a great point. Yeah, there is a little bit of a link counter attack that did manage to get out and could be really dangerous if Kelazhur isn't paying attention, especially with all of his Hellions being on the other side of the map. The BCs are doing work, but this link counter attack, it has me worried.
Oh, he got in. He got in with the lings. Unfortunately, Kelazhur, he does manage to raise the depot in his natural, but there's just a single Hellbat in the natural expansion to try and defend against this. So once that dies, now he has to bring everything else back. And unfortunately, that Spire is going to be able to finish right around the time that he sees it. So battle cruisers are going to need to go home. And depending on the way that he postures himself for the future here, I mean, if he sends the Corruptor straight across the map, he might even be able to just like kill the BCs, might end the game.
Maybe so. I mean, the Yamato is so scary, but let's look at this.
He does have
the BCs are taking down Queens, and there's only a couple of spores here. Cham is now supply blocked, by the way. Pretty heavily at that, and yeah, there were still a few of these. He's gonna drop the mule, not even attempting to teleport. This is looking powerful, man.
Okay, yeah, no, he's totally got this. Yeah, having all 4 BCs together, I was afraid they were still split up, but grouping them together and using the Yamato, since they all have teleport on cooldown, even with the SCV losses, he's still ahead now on the drone count because he just can't be dislodged.
Yeah, mind you,
by the way.
Oh no, they are not by any means. So if he can continue to just use his Yamato on cooldown, it's amazing. But it's kind of like swarm hosts. Like BCs kind of become swarm hosts when corruptors are out, and it's like, you know, like, can you leverage your timing every time? And if you do, then you're kind of getting ahead consistently, I think.
I did make the mistake of selecting all the BCs earlier. 2 of them just died. They did not actually have the teleport off cooldown, so there was. There's definitely that's a pretty big loss because BCs are very snowbally, but just figure worth pointing out he's going to end up with a total of 5, it looks like.
Yeah, during that link run by, I think it was important to highlight the crisis management from Kelazhur, decent good. I mean, to pull the SCVs out of his main and to the Hellions, to recognize that the Hellions were the closest safety zone right away was great from him. On Cham's side, though, I feel like he over-microed the links a little bit. Like half of his links weren't attacking SCVs for like half of the time. So I think that could have netted him a few more kills that might have put him ahead in this game.
Yeah, no, there's definitely opportunities on both sides to handle that a little bit better. I personally think that like one of the things you can do is if your Hellions are out of your base like that across the map, just keep your door closed unless you specifically need to open it, right? Like,
oh, it's so difficult.
Rallying to your natural wall in case you get counterattacked like that is one of the things that, you know, keeps you from being punished too much. Because obviously when you're doing a BC rush like that, you're usually keeping your eyes on the other side of the field, right? You're just trying to micro the hell out of the BCs, doing everything that you can. Counterattack is one of the few things that can make the entire rush invalid. But right now, look at this fleet. He's going to be able to delete 5 corruptors from the next fight as it starts.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And if I could code my play, Nate, I would put in the coding that when or if I exit my base, the door closes behind me.
Yes.
But of course, easier said than done.
There's like a weird type of autocast. That'd be great. Okay, 1 BC. Oh, there you go. There's the jump out. I think in this situation, it's always best to just try to teleport immediately because battle cruisers just, unless you're focus firing something else, almost never kill corruptors with their air-to-air attack. Like the damage just really isn't there for the most part.
Yeah, he's gonna have to. At the end, he switches to drones. I think that's a much more sensible choice if you want to insist on staying. But yeah, after you teleport 1 BC, your damage is dropping, right? Like your HP drops with your damage, and so by the time you have 1 BC left, you're outputting 1/5 of the damage that you were outputting initially. So yeah, like once you teleport 1, you start decreasing in power and efficiency with those. Might as well just get out relatively soon.
Yeah, and Corruptors, he did go for the fast +1 air attack so that the Corruptors could burst them down a little bit more effectively. But it is worth pointing out, Corruptors are, they have 200 health. They start with 2 armor by default. And battle cruisers only do like 5 or 6 damage versus air with no upgrades. So they really suck at killing air units that have armor like Corruptors. So usually it's like Yamato and then teleport out. Or if the Corruptors attack into you, you like kind of suicide them into their base and kill as much as you can type situation.
Yeah, it's a very difficult dance to get the right upgrades on Corruptors because you usually want to flood the battle cruisers and you want to kill them as early as possible as well, especially because they can teleport and whatnot. So that's also valuable, right? And then the armor, if the battle cruisers are actively fighting the Corruptors, it's a good thing. And I think that Kelazhur has shown that he's willing to fight and that he has enough battle cruisers that he will inevitably almost engage after dropping the Yamatos. So yeah, I think it's a difficult balance. I'm not sure what I would get personally.
Yeah, it's hard. And now we're on to like the battle mech phase, right? Where we've got these Cyclones, Hellions running around as well. And you need to be really careful because for Cham, he's trying to reposition his forces. He's trying to also be aware of the position of these units. And that Infestor, one fungal will stop them from being able to teleport.
Oh,
He does get the cast off first though.
Yeah, very nice job. I like the Infestor. Could use some burrow there to be a little bit more inconspicuous.
Definitely agree with you on that one, Cass. The Infestors are also nice for dealing with the Cyclone Hellion. What I was saying earlier too is if you have your units on the wrong sides and like there's just 8 Corruptors there and 5 Cyclones roll up, like you know you're gonna lose 5 minimum Corruptors. Like Cyclones absolutely obliterate them. So the army synergizes very well, but there does need to be a sort of late game backbone because eventually Infestors kind of counter a lot of this if they just Neural Parasite, fungal to prevent the teleport, right? They can fungal the Cyclones and they all just die really fast, honestly, because the whole thing about them is speed.
Yeah.
So he needs to be careful.
Yeah, I think you're very right in pointing that there is a trade-off to the ability of the Cyclone. Oh, big fungals. That's a lot of Corruptors. A lot of these will end up falling.
Uno, dos,
fungal available.
going for the next one. A lot of BCs that just died, Cat.
These guys are late to the party now. Oh my God, this is looking so good for Cham now after this, and I think you're right. I think he's also identifying that the Infestors are doing fantastic. I hope he is, because he needs to keep making more, right? He's out of fungals. That has been the star of his composition. You're very right. Once that very mobile mech army gets caught, same with the BCs, they are really not that good at fighting head-on. They're more like harassy, they're more pokey. A lot of their strength comes from their mobility.
Yeah, I'll tell you, even with the Baneling damage nerf to armored, you still don't want them to hit Cyclones. They only have like 120 health. They're not very chunky. And he's going to shut down this northeast base. It is hard to get out of the first 4 bases on this map. I feel sometimes if you're not able to really be active out on the field. So
big connections there on the Banelings. Kelazhur is still managing to output a large army, however, so he can very well stabilize. And somehow that, I don't like that planetary fortress in the north is still alive, right? Like he started
going to kill it.
Yeah, he was puking with the Corruptors, but then decided, oh, there's a turret shooting me. I should stop puking. And don't stop puking.
Oh no, 1 missile turret?
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, it's not enough.
Yeah, been a fun game here thus far, though, regardless.
Yeah, beautiful game.
It's got a lot of Lings, a lot of Banes. But as you were saying, behind this, he's put together quite the force. And really, one of the goals as a Terran when you're doing this is you want to just build literally as many Thors as you can behind it, because they kill everything that Zerg can build. It's just hard to get a lot of them without letting the Zerg either take the whole map or, kill you before you can get the proper number.
And
but this many Thors is like, you're not going to lose to this type of army if you have any support for them at all.
Yeah, I will once again invoke the power of the Infestator. I think Infestors, Neural Parasiting Thors are one of the ways that you can actually defeat this with any sort of support, right? It just comes down to positioning. For example, here you want your Infestors behind the Thors. Imagine Neural Parasiting all 5 of those. Most of the Terran army will die if there's anything to hold them somewhat in place.
And Broodlords, 12 of them are going to get added to the mix. Now, if there's one thing I think everybody on Earth right now agrees on, is that Broodlords suck versus Thors. You need to have the right amount of units and support for them. If they're on their own, the Thors will absolutely obliterate them. But that northeast base looks like he's finally going to try and cash that range check for it.
Oh, and here's a lot of Thors against a lot of Broodlords. Let's see how this goes.
He's got to come in. He's got to get the Neural Parasites off or something. He uses fungal. Did he even research the Neural? No, he doesn't actually have the
he only has 2
upgrades,
Infestors, right?
It's just Thors versus Broodlords, and
that's
that never worked.
Yep. Oh, Broodlords versus Thors. Let's see it.
We just tried to watch like the average criminal fist fight Batman. It's like, good luck.
Yep. Well, I think the great problem for Cham here is that when he morphed the Broodlords, I think it wasn't such a bad call because he hadn't seen any Thors. He's seen like 7 out of nowhere,
fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Versus just Cyclone Hellion, like Broodlords are actually very good.
Yeah, pretty good defensively, and he's been doing a great job defensively. Not sure how he remaxes on an army that deals with this cost efficiently at this point, though.
Mass Ravager is one way to try, but that's why the tanks are there. Let's see. I like that he didn't unsiege all of them. But man, even this battle cruiser is being such a thorn in his side up here. He doesn't have anything to actually send over there to help deal with that.
Okay, leading with the Broodlings. He might be able to clear this. There is a couple of fungus, but you don't want to waste those infestors. I think this will be enough to push Kelazhur back, but at what cost?
Yeah, it's so hard because Kelazhur did retake the west side base. They've actually got like basically mirrored expansions at this point in time. That's the way you got to do it though. Like Ravager Biles are so nice to have when those Thors kind of get locked into position, because the Thors are good versus Broodlords, but they are best when they're standing still, able to shoot, and that's, you know, the Ravager is the antithesis of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a pretty decent way to combo the Broodlords that he had as well, because later it gets nasty with the tanks, but since there was still some Broodlords around, the tanks do the friendly fire, and the Broodlings provide for a little bit of a shield for the Ravagers to do the bites. Nice run by.
Yeah, no, good Hellion pressure. I mean, the number of spine crawlers is definitely nice, but you see none of them are actually in range of the mineral line. like the Hellions are always going to run past them. But like as a Terran player, this is the end game army that you want, really. It's just as many Thors as humanly possible with Hellions to support, and I'd say throw in ranged Liberators as well. That's kind of how you try to zone out the infestors.
Yeah,
and the
69 workers for Kelazhur to the 54 of Cham. So even though the map looks like it is a very competitive game, it's very difficult from this position for Cham. Kelazhur has already gotten and used a lot of his advantage to set up further economical advantage in the way of CCs. So this is looking dire.
Yeah. The thing is, like, a lot of these units can be strong, but if you get like an open, not clumped up, somewhat spread out fight with the Thors, like they one-shot the Lings and the Banes naturally, but they two-shot Ravagers. Like Ravagers actually die really fast if the Thors are able to shoot them. So the game's going to end up, I think, coming back to what we were talking about earlier, the neural parasites. But okay, he just started the upgrade finally
with 2 infestors. That is the only way that he has, I think, to start trading cost efficiently against those Thors. He's gonna need an amazing engagement where he basically clears Kelazhur and doesn't lose too much, because that's the only way that I see him coming back at this point, right? Like he needs to neuroparasite like 5-6 Thors in the front and hope that that he clears the army without losing too much.
And does pick off a few Ravagers, loses a few Cyclones though. Lings are coming in to shut down that army. Although I will say, I don't know how you dislodge. Like if Kelazhur gets a planetary or 2 on that southwest base, I don't know how you dislodge that. Like that's the ultimate siege position that's going to cut off those 2 bases for Cham. And here he is again with the Thors to shut it down once more. Neural Parasite's not ready yet, Cats.
Yeah, that's what he's going for. I'm not even sure if Burrow is available. So even if Neural Parasite was available, it might be too easy to snipe. I haven't seen anything burrowed at least.
He did get Burrow. He did get Burrow.
Nice. He needs to start burrowing those infestors then, I think, because he needs to be sneaky. Nate, I've talked about this with you before. I really like sneaking with my infestors behind the Terran army. I find no Terran, no matter who it is, ever scans behind their army, right? Yeah. So I think that's the way often to kind of like shadow the army of the Terrans with especially when you're looking for an unlikely comeback win. This is a lot of Thors though. It's what Cham wants.
Yeah,
it's what Cham wants to fight.
If he uses the infestors properly, there's a lot of damage that you can do against this type of force. Interestingly enough, the Kelazhur starts production on Banshee. He didn't add more starports, did he? He's got 3. Okay. Nice. He's getting Banshee speed. Oh boy, this is how he wants to deal with the infestors.
What a nasty.
Bold move.
Yeah. Another thing is that Cham has kept his infestors with his army, and they have been constantly getting scanned, right? Like Kelazhur is constantly keeping tabs. Oh, I don't know about this on Cham's army. So I really would like to see those infestors split from the army, so that Kelazhur feels safe knowing where the army is, and then doesn't actively look for the infestors. Have those infestors out on the map. You need to take some risks here.
Yeah, no, definitely agree there. Like if he just lets this army walk up like this mineral line, he's going to scan. All the drones are going to get blown to pieces. Along with that spine. Okay, so the infestors are kind of peeling off to the northeast side here, Cats. But like you were saying, he needs to keep them separate. Oh, God, no scan.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you would scan, though. I think he should have run him to the other side, right?
Yeah,
or ran him to this side, throwing the army on the other side to force the scan there. There goes the neural parasite. Look, the tanks need to focus fire some of these. The Thors are neural parasited. This is great for Cham, regardless. Only with 3 Thors. It's such a huge swing.
Yeah, no, massive neural parasites. Very important to be able to get those. And you can see the leftover forces still pound away at this Zerg army. Cham does not get across unscathed. And I think that was my concern, though, because losing a lot of the income at that base during that fight. Cats, despite cleaning that up, he's still down. He's at 95 supply to 149 of Kelazhur. And mind you, he's mining off that double gold gas. He's a mech player banking 2,000 gas, Cats.
Jeez. It was just a little bit too costly, right, for Cham. I think that he needed to neuroparasite more than 3 Thors because, well, he was always going to win that fight because the swing is so huge, right? Like, how much are Thors, Nate? Something like 550 resources?
Yeah, 300 minerals, 200 gas, 400 health, 1 armor by default.
Yeah, so that's 500 resources. If you remove 3 of those, you're removing 1,500 resources from your opponent's army and adding 1,500 resources to yours. So it's a 3,000 resource swing, and you know an extra 1 is another 1,000. So that would have been huge.
It comes in, guys, to do another little attack here, but it's just really not going to get it done. I think Cham might be realizing he doesn't have what he needs to kill this type of army anymore. We also saw more battle cruisers were added, so suddenly anti-air becomes a problem again. GG is called, and Kelazhur is going to tie things up.
Yeah, very nice game from Kelazhur, keeping his composure. I think that, Cham had the win condition in set up to, well, not the win condition, but the stabilizing condition set up. In order to win that fight, he needed more than 3 neuroparasites, though. And if he had, then he could have droned up. He could have, maybe taken a base on a counterattack of Kelazhur, and all of a sudden we had a game in our hands. But I mean, it was a great game regardless. Yeah,
no, I mean, a couple of things go right here or there. Maybe goes for that neural parasite upgrade a little bit earlier. It's a tough luck that like the part of the army that was the Broodlords ran into the Thors before everything was together too. But yeah, that's just hard when that situation happens. I think we are going to go to a quick break before game 3. I'm just going to triple check that.
No, okay, it's after game 3.
Right, I was just making sure.
So we're about to load into the next game. That was, I mean, we're tied 1-1. My prediction was 3-0 Kelazhur, and Cham has put up 2 very strong games so far. I mean, we were talking about the opener of Kelazhur and how strong it was on that map unscouted, and Cham still managed to stabilize and at some points look stronger than Kelazhur during that match.
I mean, he had some great control during the engagements when he had like some, or at least most of the units that he wanted, right? Like in the situation where he wanted to take that fight on the bottom side, like he was able to kill the army when he had what he needed, but he just took too much damage prior to that to rebuild his army enough for the next fight, right? So at the end of the day, like we know that he's good with his army control. We know that he can handle the engagements, but he's got to be a little bit sharper against the harass that's coming in, and those battle cruisers, like you said, that opener, that's a brutal opening to go up against.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think if you're Kelazhur, you still should look at that fight and think about it, right? Like what's missing, because that was a good trade for Cham ultimately. It's just the fact that he couldn't remax. And I think you were right. I think ghosts would be really good. Another thing that would be really nice is liberators with range, I think, to zone out the infestors so that can't happen. So either one of those things is what I would look for Kelazhur to add come the late game.
Yeah, all the mineral patches on that map, like all the bases you can hit like almost untargetable from the ground with ranged liberators too.
Oh, that's
the maps have eased up a little bit since the range nerfs on the liberator, but that has created a few spots, should I call them.
You're a nasty. All right, we're loading into the 3rd game. And spawning in the top right-hand side, it is the red Zork player for Exxon. It is Cham.
And his opponent, tying things up in the bottom left, the blue Terran player, Mark Angels, he's Kelazhur. I like that we're back to rock music with these intros as well now.
Yeah.
And we got to get the synthwave intros for everybody. Then we got to get the classical piano intros for like TLO,
Right.
If Idra ever comes back, we get some dubstep. Just something that'll make everybody's ears explode.
Yeah, there is a Idra dubstep playlist available somewhere on Spotify made by Moose Skills, if you know Moose Skills.
Ah, yeah.
It has 4 songs. It's really good.
It has 4 songs.
They were all approved
Nice.
though by
Nice.
by Idra on Twitter.
I still actually have added that playlist that when TLO first put it out like 8 years ago. His there's something called like Passion or something, and it's just all like this like very like Interstellar soundtrack type music, you know.
Oh really?
Yeah, very like heavy, like calm but heavy at the same time. Like no harsh sounds, but like very deep, like shaking noises, sort of thing.
I could see that. Something that gives you a little bit of a rhythm, right? You kind of need a little bit of a pacing in StarCraft. Like you can't really stop, so music can't be too mellow.
No. Well, speaking of rhythm, cats, I mean, the build Kelazhur's doing this game is he's gonna need to stutter step to the beat, should we say, and to keep that micro and keep that BPM up, as he's gonna try and do a lot of damage with these Reapers. The nice thing about the way that some of these ramps work, or the walls now for like naturals, is you can fit it in where you just have the 2 barracks and the depot block. So you can't really counterattack a Terran who does this. It's very hard to punish. So all you can do is just sit back and try to defend. Keyword, try.
Yeah, I mean, one key disadvantage of the spawn on this map, which we don't really get to talk about much, is the position of the potential tech lab and the reactors that would come off those barracks, and it's kind of limiting on Kelazhur's side, right? Because if Cham is willing to, and if he does manage to and wishes to go roaches, he could very well apply pressure to that. So is that a reason to anticipate something different, like mech not taking advantage of those?
Wow, you're going deep with this analysis. Yeah. That's a good point, though. I mean, I don't even think about it because like I don't do this build, but I've never quite actually thought about that. I do wonder if Kelazhur considered it, like when he saw the spawn, if he was like, you know what, whatever, like I'll just do it anyway. Like he was always planning to do this build, and now I think it's more so that he was always planning to do it.
Oh, definitely. He was always planning, but yeah, I think it would be better on Cham's spot. Let's see if he's able to break it, because then we don't have to think about this at all. But if he's not, then I want to see what Kelazhur's transition is. You know, like I was talking about this in a game between Clem and Raynor recently, and Clem went for the tech lab and the reactor anyway. And then when we talked to Raynor after the fact, he thought the same thing. He thought, yeah, I guess if I had gone roaches, he might have just died then, because he had those actors exposed.
Yeah, interestingly, he is going to try and pull back a little bit. He's kind of looking for this pack of Lings that I think wants to catch the reinforcements. So whether he tries to go for the full surround here or not, Kelazhur's got to be a little bit careful with rallying anything out. And that does reduce the growth and firepower. There's the surround from the backside, hitting from the main base direction as well. But good grenade boops actually keeps him okay.
Yeah, good grenade boops, but also Cham ran a little bit further than he needed to with his second wave of Lings. He could have definitely caught some of these.
Yeah, there's some big opportunity there. I mean, Reapers, they regenerate their hit points, right, at no extra cost. So if you can keep them alive, they can generate value forever. A couple more reinforcing ones do show up. Those Lings, pretty helpless while being bounced through the air. That's where the strength of this comes from. I have to say, he's building a 3rd command center. He's still building Reapers, cats.
Yeah, and I mean, he's trading efficiently. He's going up against Lings. Oh, this could be decent. Not good enough. Why isn't he getting the full surrounds? Attack move!
Oh my god, if the Reapers somehow kill all these Lings, I'm gonna lose it. He's so close. He's there. No, he's there. Hot damn. I don't have.
I mean, he did lose a lot of Reapers there.
I do not have anything to add to that. That was actually freaking insane. His Reaper control is disgusting. And the problem for Cham is, and I'm sure you know this, cats. He's if he's building Lings, he's not building drones. But Kelazhur is building SCVs.
Oh, and the Queen with all the energy just got picked off as well. So that's going to make it further more difficult to play with a very larva-dependent composition like just Zerglings from Cham. So going to make the transition back into economy very difficult.
Yeah, that's disgusting. And then what? The Overlord comes in, he's like, oh, 3rd CC's done. Oh, he's got 5 barracks now. Well, this is not quite the scenario you're hoping for. Oh, BTW, there are still Reapers alive on the map. He's going to catch this one. That's nice. Still a little hit squad out there, but you can clear creep with that. You can bring him home.
Yeah, the Lynx are such a risky choice against Reapers. I mean, Roaches are probably a stronger go-to in the sense that you can only do so much with Reapers against Roaches. But against Zerglings, it can really snowball out of control. Like you need to have a huge surround and kill them all and get map control out of that and have a huge swing, or you trade bad once or twice and then the Reaper snowball and we kind of have a very difficult game in our hands. We've had half and half here, but I would heavily favor Kelazhur.
He's killed like 75 Lings with these Reapers. And the difference is like the Lings hold their value, right? You use them for a lot of different things. But like at this point, the Reapers have already done their job. Like if he loses the rest of them, that sucks. It's a bit of map control loss, but it's not the end of the world.
Do you think that a lot of the value that Reapers lose is because of the control that they require? Like, so you can't really get squeeze value out of them with the army at the same time?
Like this control is really good. This is really good. I mean, Kelazhur's a very good player as well. At some point, you ask yourself like what you're not doing to be able to do that, right? Or it's like the classic conundrum for like a new StarCraft player, right? Like when someone's like, oh yeah, I'm a Silver Terran, like what's a good build? And you tell them a Reaper expand, but then they try to micro their Reaper and they float 7,000 minerals, like,
right?
And they're like, well, yeah, actually, I don't recommend Reaper expands to low-level players because you have to work on some core stuff before you can micro while you macro. That's a hard thing to do.
Very much so. And Cham is going to try to find an opening here. I like the creep spread and how he has prioritized it because that is the most vulnerable base. So he is thinking things through, but I mean, he's so far behind, I think. Just economically, he's well ahead technically for workers. 2 workers now, but 3 orbital commands out for Kelazhur and the better tech.
Well, that's the big one too. And look, the creep is only just starting to like really poke out of the natural at the 8-minute mark. He spread it better from the 3rd, which is nice, but like middle of the map matters a lot because there's, you got to support the 4th base and it's going to create an angle that he can carve through that center north where Cham's going to be forced to just expand down the right side of the map. And he's actually going to be expanding towards Kelazhur, which you don't always want to do as a Zerg player.
Yeah, I generally agree. It would be nice if his creep spread was coming out of the natural too, but remember, he didn't have very much energy. I'm happy that he prioritized this side because even with the 4th being forward, this is a very difficult area to defend from tanks for that 4th.
Oh, that was a sick Baneling detonation. It doesn't kill the Marines, but pauses them.
Okay, those Banelings do not manage to connect with the SCVs. Nice, nice focus fire, geez.
I'm actually really surprised he didn't lose the workers of that base.
Yeah. Bruised a bunch of Lynx or Marines.
Yeah, he's getting his 2-2. Focusing the veins. I'm like, all these Marines have like dark orange or red health. Like, send them home. Take care of them.
Jesus. Yeah, they just get redeployed over and over. The poor people are stimmed. Like I can break. Poor things. Overworked.
Yeah, where's the union for our Marines out here being forced to skim over and over again, cats?
Unbelievable.
So he's got this hit squad in the southeast. There are some Zerg forces he could run into while he continues to poke the front. He actually built that infestation pit by the gold gas base, which I do find that's a little bit forward. I think of it as a valuable tech structure, but
yeah, definitely, yeah. Yeah, you don't want to do that. It's just one of those things where you're doing so much and you're like on a screen and you have the button there and it's, either you do that or occupy another screen in doing that. It's, it's one of those weird things that just, you kind of get caught in a weird situation and you just kind of want to get it done with, I guess. Not ideal for sure.
This type of stuff is what Kelazhur's always been good at though, right? Like this map pressure, constantly attacking with bio from a lot of different angles. And it makes it really hard because for Cham, all you can do is try to keep up in the speed while also doing other things. And that is just so tough. He's going really far into creep though, Cat.
Yeah, deep on creep. Very deep on creep. Nice pre-splits, but there's no tanks here or anything like that for the Banelings. These Banelings looking to bait out some Widowmine shots, but are not going to be able to find them. And 2 medevacs on the other side of the map will continue to be annoying. Let's see if these Banelings for Cham can find something. They are very important. They're going into the mineral line and they don't. No.
Oh my goodness. Wow. He somehow did not I thought at least the mines were going to get the SCVs there.
This setup.
I feel like I'm watching like some old school Beyond stuff out here, really. He's like, I'm just going to kill you with mass bio, perfectly microed and 11 medevacs constantly counterattacking.
It's going to get more and more difficult as the creep recedes. I feel like at some point Cham could have been maybe more decisive and just kind of jumped into an army that was standing fully on creep. But now it's more and more difficult. The infestation pit is going to be made a point of in this game as well, it looks like.
Yeah, that base going up 450. Baneling's trying to protect the east side expansion while he does a massive run by. But he's defended against those types of attacks pretty well thus far. Widowmine heavily contributing and out in the front of the base too.
Yeah. Oh man, Cham trying to do what he can. He's gonna cut off some reinforcements, kill some SCVs, but now it's gonna be down and trailing a base and army and economy, and yeah, I mean 2-1 ultimately.
Yeah, no, he's taken an absolutely brutal beating and unable to really morph those Banelings anywhere that they could safely reach the Terran army. Now down almost 100 supply is Cham. Kelazhur taking a dominant lead with his performance in this game thus far. Look at the splitting on that bio. Absolutely disgusting.
Mamma mia, just disgusting. Oh, Kelazhur. Just absolutely brutal, relentless, that game. You know what, Nate? I don't know. Any thoughts here?
It was just perfect. I mean, it felt perfectly played is the only way I could describe it. Like, I've seen that Reaper build a few times. I've seen it out of actually special a couple of times as well, but like, I actually haven't seen somebody execute that build like opening as well as Kelazhur just did yet. Like, that was just perfect.
Shut up. Shut up while I'm talking to you. I need a little room to pray. And I'm about to.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're here with the Latin America finals. We're currently on the semis right now for the loser bracket, or excuse me, I guess the finals for the lower bracket, as we are about to get into another game here for Kelazhur versus Cham. It's been a pretty explosive series thus far.
Very much so. And I mean, we're at a 2-1 score for Kelazhur, perhaps somewhat expected, but we aren't here in the way that we might expect. I think Cham is putting a great fight so far. And down to Submarine, the shortest rush distance in the map pool.
Yes, this map, I'll tell you what, Cats, you know how I like to play. This map I have a lot of trouble on. Very short rush distance. We'll see if we get some aggressive builds possibly Although Kelazhur brought his own pretty aggressive opening to the last game, you know, the macro transitional 3-racks Reaper, not the proxy.
Most definitely. I mean, we'll see what happens here. Submarine, maybe the least favorite map in this map pool at the moment. Then would you say? I mean, I like.
Yeah, I feel like this is the one we've seen the least at minimum.
And yeah, that's fair. Maybe named after the Beatles song, Yellow Submarine. It is a yellow.
The map does appear to have quite some yellow type colors.
Yeah.
That's
Ringo was also set aside for the most part in the Beatles as the worst, not map maker or map, but in this case, songwriter for a song. Yellow Submarine is not my favorite, but this map I actually do like. So unfair to the map makers. Here's Cham. Living in a yellow submarine.
gotta let Pontus play his jams, man. In the bottom right, we have Kelazhur.
Oh, love it. Okay, Kelazhur opening extremely standard here, as is Cham.
Yeah, I guess that was the first thing to think about, right? Like, are we going to have the extra barracks? Are we going to have the drone scouts? Although it doesn't seem like that is going to be the case for this game, right? So already changes.
Yeah, I mean, last time around he went roaches on this map. It didn't quite work out. Kelazhur finally adapted by this point because he had lost to two previous roach builds at the point at which we reached submarine last time around 2 days ago. And so he was going banshees. I am curious to see if he will plan on playing a little bit more defensive this game. Well, we've seen everything from Kelazhur in this matchup.
Yes, we have now at this point, right? We got the Reaper craziness. We've had double battle cruiser rush into mech. Bio, obviously, and I guess in a way you could just say mech. So we've seen a pretty wide range out of him, and I'm happy to report no like Banshee Hellbat or just Hellbat attacks, thankfully. As those don't seem to work for anybody.
Also, I like that Cham, of all maps where he wasn't scouting with the drone, he chose the smallest one, right? Because the smallest one should be the one where proxies thrive the least, I imagine, because less usage out of the terrain that you gain by proxying.
He probably felt a lot more confident that if there was something, his overlords would see it or something. Or maybe he would have thought he could drone pull more easily since he wouldn't have to go as far if the proxy was close.
Yeah. Alrighty, so here come the queens to push away this Reaper who has had a relatively good time already, killing 3 Zerglings.
Yeah. You know, my favorite point of comparison for the European Zergs right now, and I guess for the purposes of talking about the LATAM finals in general, like when I've been commentating like the EPT cuts, my favorite thing is any Terran against like Raynor, don't even get like one Ling most of the time. I think Clem had the highest score of killing a single Zergling of Raynors like in this game, which blows my mind because it's so normal to kill 1 or 2 in any game. But then you like when you're like trying to put that benchmark, gets the tumor, beautiful snipe by that Reaper,
and survives. Very, very well done. Yeah, I mean, I think Kelazhur up there with the best as far as Reaper control. I think of him and Euthermal as some of the better players, perhaps on par with the likes of Clem.
Yeah, very, very, very well done. Very good control there, and he's gonna have to bring that tumor down from the main base and try to protect that as much as possible. As Kelazhur, he's kind of like threatening, he's posturing. Like he doesn't really want to try and move in right here, but he's looking for an opening. He's trying to keep Cham's attention on this front force. Meanwhile, he's just getting a Viking at home and a Marauder. He's pocketing Marauders, cats.
Oh, what a nasty. I mean, we know what's coming here. It will not be scouted either. I mean, the dynamic changes radically when Marauders enter the fray, right? Because all of a sudden, if you have roaches to deal with the Hellion/Hellbats, the Marauders can have something to say about it, and there's the armory, so Hellbats are abound.
And a medevac in production after that Viking. So we're going to have ourselves some Hellbats, some Marauders being healed as well. And just Zerglings, usually, that's like pretty much the one way to die if it was only Hellbats. But like you said, even if he adds in Roaches or Banelings, they're both going to be pretty vulnerable to the Marauders because he's getting concussive shell too. So even if the Marauders, like they don't do bonus damage to Banes, but if he tags 1 or 2 and slows them down, then it's, it's free pickings for the rest of them.
Definitely. I think Banes are still some of the best responses once the Hellbats are morphed, because they really struggle to run away. There's no Spines, though, and there's only Zerglings, not very many Queens. I have no idea how Cham holds this, but I'll be taking notes if he does.
I'm not really sure he can. No Baneling Nest, no Roach Warren. Starts 3 Spine Crawlers, but they can't be everywhere at once, Cats. They're in this mineral line, and they're alone. Let's not forget that Marauders are pretty good units against those defensive structures. And now all Cham can do is try to split all of his units, start a Baneling Nest, but he can't run the Queens away when there's Marauders with Concussive Shell. And guess what? He closed the door this time, Paolo. He closed the door
very well, but I like the move by Cham, because those lanes would have just melted onto this Hellbats otherwise, right? And some of the Spines are actually finishing, and there's no reinforcements to be had, but the drones get roasted, Nate, a little bit too many. 6 now falling, a few more pushed off to the side. There's 3 Queens remaining, many links still made. Cham is 39 workers to the 44 of Kelazhur, but if he can somehow stabilize, it might be okay.
I mean, he's cranking out a few more links, and even if this Baneling Nest gets targeted, it looks like it's going to finish. So Cham has enough gas to at least make some Banelings and cry.
I think that Queen died with a Transfuse.